Hello, hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here. Um, yeah, let's talk about Old Town. Old Town. Um, so I've been doing some thinking about Old Town because I've been trying to put together what I want for the Samwell chapter call. I was thinking about doing Samwell 2 with regards to the fanfic, but it made me think a lot about Old Town and um, the story there. And I think in the fandom, there's a lot of focus on, of course, the Battle of Blood, and everybody kind of believes that Euron will win the Battle of Blood. We did the Harrower chapter about how it might um, turn out. I don't think um, even people that don't believe like Preston Jacobs' Battle of Blood theories and think something else is going to happen, like actual magic or whatever. It doesn't matter. People kind of believe that Euron is going to win. But after defeating the Red Wine fleet and all of that, and the Hightower fleet, there is the question of how does one conquer a city with ships? And how does that go? Because people kind of just say, oh well, Euron's going to conquer Old Town or something like that. But really, how exactly? Like, how does that work? How does conquering a city with a bunch of boats actually work? Because in modern times, or since the invention of the cannon, and artillery and things like this, and today, whatever missiles. A ship can sit in the bay and bombard a city and threaten it until it surrenders or just level it to the ground, right? That's how ships kind of work today. They sit out there and you can't hit them. They're far enough and they just level you, you know, or, you know, ships transport a large number of troops somewhere where the opponent has not set up defenses and those forces cause a bunch of trouble. But that's not really the situation here. Okay, we're in a medieval level of technology. There's no cannons. There's no artillery. At best they got some archers, and archers can't shoot that far. Um, and if they can, it's just some arrows. We're talking medieval warfare. So how exactly, you know, is a navy that advantageous when it's just a navy? The thing is, when a navy is complemented by land forces, that's different, because then you can do harrying and transporting troops and getting them all over the place. But that's not what Euron has. He's got a bunch of ships, and yeah, those ships got some crews, no doubt. But it's not like regular armored men with spears. It's not like you're taking these guys that are all rowing on your long ships and all of a sudden suiting them up and giving them spears, and all of a sudden they're an army. That's just not how it's designed. So, and you're taking, what are they all just going to leave their ships? I mean, they leave their ships for raiding here and there, but does it really make sense that they would be able to conquer and hold a city? And it's rather funny. Sour Billy's like, but archers can shoot 700 feet in the air. That's true, yeah. These are these George mistakes. Even George kind of tries to retcon that it was wind bringing the arrows up. Silly, ridiculous. But nonetheless, you got to start thinking like, okay, like how exactly are we getting these Ironborn out and conquering a city? Because even Old Town's got a guard, and the Hightowers have forces beyond the guard, and then you've got Garland Tyrell's like massive forces up at the shields who can come down. Okay, so on land, the Hightowers and the Tyrells would just annihilate. So the minute you get kind of coastal in from the coast, these ships can't really do much. They can raid. but that's not, but that doesn't necessarily mean they can't conquer the city. There are some methods. Okay, so in medieval times, like if you're trying to, generally speaking, if you're conquering a city, you try to surround it, do siege. They're not going to be able to do that. They surround a city, they'll just all the forces from other houses, Garland, Tyrell would come in and get them. So they're not surrounding Oldtown, and they don't have the forces to just sweep in and take the city over, and because there's thousands of guard in the city. So I'm kind of left with this idea that they're going to try to take hostages. They're going to try to go in, take the high towers, and then ransom the city and be like, well, we have you. You must surrender. Okay. But the high towers live in the high tower. The high tower is insane, right? So just by the way, I have here various people's artistic renditions of Oldtown. Some are better than others. Here's one that I found. This one, I guess they're trying to put Battle Island here, but Battle Island is supposed to be like at where the Honeywine becomes Whispering Sound. So the island should be further south. Also, we specifically know that the Citadel is on both sides of the Honeywine with bridges over it. So, and no one says that the bridges of the Citadel are inhumanly long like the ones in Volantis. So the Honeywine is a thinner river than this portrayal would have. Here's another one. This one, again, has a fairly wide Honeywine, but it's trying to have the bridges with the Citadel on both sides. Again, it has the Battle Island where the high tower is, where the Honeywine becomes Whispering Sound. And you can kind of see wharfs. This one's not bad. I would probably make the Honeywine skinnier, but it's not bad. But you can see it's just the city would be sprawling. Like, how are you supposed to conquer this whole thing? They just wouldn't have that many forces. I mean, granted, it's a lot of ships. They got, say they do have 1,000 ships, and whatever survives their battle, it's just how are you wouldn't be able to take the whole city and not hold it, certainly. This is actually one of my favorite, even though it's not built to scale or anything, but this one actually has various things that we've seen mentioned. So we've got the high tower on Battle Island. They didn't quite do the detail because up the high tower there's actually a sept where one of the levels is like seven sides and things like that. But nonetheless, it's not bad. But you get to see there's things like, he has the Red Temple and the Sailor Septs along the wharf, the guild halls along the wharf. That's all accurate. That's the locations. Things like the 7 shrines, the Quill and Tankard being an island up that can see the high tower, Quill and Tankard being near the Citadel. He actually put, the only thing I'd say that the Quill and Tankard is farther from the Citadel than it should be, because the Quill and Tankard is said to be not far from the Citadel as the Raven flies. But nonetheless, I do like this one a lot. It mentions things like Daron's statue and stuff like that. This is probably my favorite of all of the Oldtown artistic renditions, even though the fact that it's not like to scale at all, but the fact that it actually has like things that in the story. But this is yeah. So, but the point being, like, the ships would come in unable to conquer the city. They can raid the city. They can raid it, certainly. But the only way of possibly taking the city and conquering it is to conquer the high tower. But the high tower seems pretty impregnable, right? Like, you're talking all these levels up, castle after castle after castle being built. Like, how are you supposed to like build siege engine after siege engine after siege engine after siege engine to get up there? I do have an idea on this, But one last thing I want to mention here when you look at Old Town. Old Town is more or less based on not this one. Why did I pull that one? Based on Alexandria, Egypt. And when we say it's based on Alexandria, Egypt, Alexandria, of course, had the library, and Alexandria had the lighthouse, right? And so these are two elements of Old Town. Historically, there was a lighthouse at Alexandria, mainly because the coast along Egypt kind of all looked the same, and you needed something to differentiate it from everything else. Though it wasn't, it wasn't cliffs like the Whispering Sound. Like the need for the high tower to be a lighthouse at the end of the Whispering Sound where the Honeywine begins, it's not really like necessary. Like, why would you need a lighthouse there? Like, everyone knows where the city is. Like, it's the whole point of a lighthouse is when you have a bunch of area where you can't, that's either like there's a lot of rocks and it's dangerous, or like everything looks the same and you're trying to have something stick out. But you wouldn't really have it at the end of a sound, a big bay like that. But nonetheless, the lighthouse was, if you look at this map, Alexandria has very different geography than Old Town. The Nile becomes a big delta, a lot of marshlands, very, at its base, very shallow, and they kind of created this kind of man-made like harbor area, and you could kind of come in, and there's a lighthouse at the end of the harbor. You can see some islands there, and people kind of came in. But geographically very different from, this is all like lowland marshes around Alexandria, Egypt. Nothing like the cliffs as you go into the sound, the fjord, essentially, of in front of Old Town. But it doesn't tell us too much on conquering. It just seems unlikely that with the huge forces that they have, that you'd be able to conquer much away from the water, except for but Diego brings up a good point. He's like, they didn't build it for the lighthouse, they built it for the dick references. That's true, probably, yes. So what can be done? How can they take the high tower? Well, the idea I have on this, which seems a little, and I don't know how it would work, if it would work in reality. So what we know is that the Ironborn have a great number of miners. Okay, one of their culture, the Ironborn culture is mostly, reaving, fishing, and mining. Mining is the weird thing, right? Like we hear about Castle Rock and their gold miners, but the Ironborn are also big miners, mainly getting iron and tin out of the ground. That's all well and good. Now, and we also know is that in the Ice and Fire universe, they use mining as a way to weaken structures to cause them to collapse. And this is specifically done on Dragonstone. Is that the Redwynes were trying to build tunnels underneath Dragonstone in order to have the walls collapse. And Loras Tyrell, according to Arain Waters, Loras Tyrell comes in and is like, this is taking too long, and said, screw it, and did an assault. So if Euron has some time, what he can do is he can start digging tunnels underneath the high tower. And when you think of something that is incredibly unstable, I would think an 800-foot tower. The high tower is 800 fucking feet tall. Now, for reference on that. Let's see. What is the... I mean, obviously, things like the Sears Tower are taller, but I'm trying to think of like a famous kind of thing that would be like, what's Empire State Building height? Empire State Building is, oh, it's close. Let's see. John Chrysler Building. What's John Hancock? John Hancock Building height is... Oh, it's also really fucking tall. Man, these buildings are tall. I'm trying to think of something. Okay. Let's think of something short then. What's the Statue of Liberty? Oh, what's Eiffel Tower? Eiffel Tower is 1,083 feet. Okay. We're getting in the right area. Eiffel Tower, a little shorter than the Eiffel Tower. What's the Statue of Liberty height? Oh, Statue of Liberty is dinky, 305 feet. So we're talking like something that's more than double Statue of Liberty. But nonetheless, man, I guess in our world where our buildings are so fucking tall these days, nonetheless, 800 feet is pretty fucking tall and unstable. So I'm thinking that what they could do is they could start mining underneath it. And whether they complete it or not, the threat of the whole high tower coming down might be enough, like surrounding the high tower with your ships so no one can get in and out, controlling that bay, landing miners and starting to mine, and then threaten that tower to collapse, and then have, you know, Leland Hightower surrender the city and bend the knee to Euron or something like that might be a pretty good strategy. Is it really unstable though, how long it stood? Well, it hasn't been that tall for all of its history. Like they could, like different people keep adding to it. So I have to see when the last the high tower ice and fire. Like it was a gradual building. So like the high towers. So obviously like the Sept part was the Andal invasion. And then, you know, they started adding. I'm trying to think of when they added after that. I guess it's somewhat unknown. I mean, it very well could be over 1,000 years that it's been at the tall height, but it's rather clear that it was much shorter until the Andal invasion because they built the Sept on one of the levels. But yeah, I don't think we have information on when exactly each of the levels was built. But nonetheless, I mean, the entire point of like mining underneath to, you know, is you might be creating instability that never existed there. So, so maybe, you know, it would be interesting to see I mean, obviously like the high tower, like crashing and collapsing, much like the wall collapsing could be like a thing. But even if they don't get it, I think it might be the thing to threaten surrender. Because I can't come up with any other, strategy. Euron doesn't seem like conquer for conquer's sake. Yeah, some people don't think that Euron is there to hold Oldtown. So some people think that Euron is just coming in to find something at the Citadel or something, grab some riches, grab some hostages, and get out of there. And then there's this idea that, okay, he's trying to reestablish the Ironborn Kingdom, the Heron's Ironborn Kingdom that had Barrett Island and Hightower and stuff like that, and that there's a reestablishment of that. So who knows? Who knows? I mean, who knows what he's up to? Yeah, I think George R. R. Martin is thinking about the destruction of Pharos at Alexandria. Yeah, Pharos is the outer area of Alexandria. And the lighthouse, the lighthouse area. I guess Pharos is actually the name for the lighthouse itself. So yeah, I mean, I suppose if you're paralleling history, the lighthouse at Alexandria falls. So, and the Citadel and the library burns. So you're talking maybe a similar kind of thing, that the Hightower falls and the Citadel burns. You have the same thing happening historically. So how does the Hightower fall? Well, why would it just fall down? Well, I think it's from the mining underneath it. That's my guess. That is my guess. Anyway, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about Oldtown, but that's the only way I could see the story going. But it also means that, like, if Euron is talking about just like drilling underneath the Hightower, that mining seems like it would take a while. I mean, I'm no expert. I know nothing about mining and how long it takes. I mean, in the story, all we know is that the mining that Paxter started on Dragonstone was incomplete. So you kind of have to say, when did that begin, and when did that cease? And you could at least get of like some idea on, like, in story, how long one can dig a tunnel. The thing is like, unlike with the Red Wines, I mean, they sent in miners, but the Ironborn, I mean, a lot of them are professionals at this. I don't know if, like, these particular, I mean, the Good Brothers were obviously miners, because we'd get that gets talked about at the beginning of Feast for Crows, and they're with Euron. But I'm trying to think, like, when does Paxter start his siege? So he attends the wedding, and then he's sent after the wedding, after Tommen's wedding, to siege by mining through the walls. So he's only really at it, before he gets sent away, he's only at it for a couple months. So it's hard to really judge how long it would take. He does something for a couple months. They think it's taking too long. So, but nonetheless, Euron might be in Oldtown for a while, trying to do this mining thing. If we're really talking about the only way, like, because it's impossible to take the Hightower by force, and it would be impossible to conquer the city with ships. The only way the only way I can come up with is to threaten the Hightower by collapsing it. And I think historically, if we're talking historically, if we're comparing it to Alexandria, well, the lighthouse does get destroyed. The library does get destroyed. So we're talking the Hightower's coming down. The Hightower's coming down. They're going to dig under it. They're going to mine. They're going to cause the thing to collapse. That's my guess. I don't know what you guys think. But yeah, does the Hightower have a mecha? I don't know. We'll see. I wonder if we'll actually see Oldtown and House of the Dragon season 3 with Daron. I mean, I guess we saw it from afar with Sam in the end of season 6, right? Is that when he arrives with the coming of winter? I was quite excited about Oldtown and seeing it. And we didn't get to see that much of it. We didn't get to see that much of the Citadel, but Press is already talking about penises and vaginas. Of course, man. This is just if religions are collectives and the faith of the Seven is in Oldtown, that's the High Tower has got a prophecy of Targaryens destroying Oldtown. The collective would burn destroy the prophecy of the Targs destroying Oldtown. The collective would burn with Oldtown. I think so. J7. I think I understand what you're saying. So this idea is that Oldtown, in many ways, is like the werewood. I know this sounds like loopy, but think of it in the sense that, like, when Bran is talking to the children of the forest, they specifically say, like, we have no need for writing. Everything gets put into the trees, and the trees remember. It's our way of remembering. Well, the Oldtown is humanity's way of remembering. Both are just two separate mechanisms for remembering. And we're talking, like, in Bran's case, he can use that werewood and see everywhere around the world, enter people's dreams, do all of that. And Sam has the glass candle that can see everywhere. And also keep in mind, in George R. R. Martin's original drafts, his original idea was that glass candles would provide immortality, just like entering the trees enters immortality. It was even more paralleled in George R. R. Martin's earlier drafts, the connection between at least the glass candles and the werewoods. And then if you add the idea that the library of the Citadel is this depository of knowledge in the same way that the trees are depository of knowledge, then you're talking, like, if the trees burn, the gods burn, then the same kind of idea would happen in Oldtown, that it would burn, and in the same way that Alexandria burned in history. But this all knowledge being lost, the gods being lost, things like that, kind of in the same situation. This all gets back, you guys know I'm redundant. If you listen to me enough, you hear my shit over and over again. But the George loves the concept of the all-powerful shut-in. He has a dozen stories about people that are, for the most part, crippled or cannot move, but sit in a room and are able to just control the world outside while they are shut in. And this goes for wild cards with the great and powerful turtle. He's inside that VW bug, but he's got all this telekinetic power and he can do all this shit. Or you can talk about Royd from Night Flyers. He's stuck in this room, but he controls everything on the ship. There's a whole lot, the pear-shaped man, these all-powerful shut-ins that are stuck someplace but have all this power in all these other places. So so Sam is kind of this, like, shut-in Oldtown. Bran is a shut-in north of the Wall, and that kind of thing. So Vikings had landing craft. They land before opposing ground forces were aware. Left a small crew to watch the ships. Yeah, I mean, if they have all their, like, forces, that's the thing, is you can use your ships to ferry forces, no doubt. If you had land invasion in mind, when the Ironborn left the Iron Islands, they were thinking about raiding. They were not thinking, like, let's pack these ships with land forces and transport them places. That wasn't on their mind. They left thinking that they were raiding. Were not thinking about, massive movements of, thousands of forces, that kind of stuff. So, the blockade strategy. Yes, the blockade strategy works in concert with military forces surrounding a city. So the idea is that, yeah, if you have a military force surrounding the city and the naval blockade, you've got the full isolation. But the problem is they don't have the ability to surround Oldtown from the outside. They just don't. Say they conquer the walls even. I mean, the Garland's forces, you're talking 20,000 people, forces. The rest of the houses in the area, it's just no. There's no way that they'd be able to hold. The glass cannon. Euron is already inside Oldtown, but the problem is that we see Euron in the flesh. That's the problem. Is a dragon egg sufficient payment for the Faceless Men to kill the city? My problem with the dragon egg theory is that it relies on selectively believing certain aspects of Euron's tales and not others. So Euron specifically says, "Oh, I held a dragon egg once and then I tossed it into the sea." And everyone's like, "I bet he didn't. I bet he had the dragon egg, but he didn't toss it into the sea. And he actually hired a faceless man with it." And it's like, well, if you're establishing him as a truth teller, then he fucking dropped it in the sea. And if you're establishing him as a liar, then why the fuck would you think he held a dragon egg? He's just making shit up. This is my not to mention it's just the logistics and everything and the timing. None of that works out. Not that, necessarily George pays attention to that, but it's just, I never liked the whole, he paid for his assassination of Balon with the dragon egg. It's like, you're selectively just taking things that you like out of his words to fit the theory and tossing away anything that doesn't. It's like what religious zealots who believe their religious texts are like the word of God and flawless do. Like anything that doesn't make sense, they're like, well, that's metaphor. The stuff that does, they're like, well, that's literal. Okay, well, so therefore there's no attack. Like it's unfalsifiable, Will you ever cover wild cards? If not, why not? The thing about wild cards is that there's a lot of material with wild cards. And however, if you're specifically talking about like George's contribution, there's not that much. George's contribution to wild cards is actually relatively small. And I do talk about George's stories in wild cards a bit. I talk about specifically Winter's Chill and the Journal of Xavier Desmond. Those two stories I've brought up quite a bit. Winter's Chill because it's so ridiculous, like the sci-fi elements of that, where it's just like, well, she was subconsciously using her telekinesis to manipulate and splice the DNA in order to, and you're like, oh my God, George. Are you that concerned over this plot hole? Because there's a plot hole in wild cards about wild cards generally, like the aces generally can't pass on their abilities to their children, but one of the other writers wrote that one of their children did have the ability passed on, so he has this long fucking sci-fi explanation on why there was this one plot hole. It's fucking crazy. But nonetheless, I don't know. I don't think there's that much to to get from it, because it's multiple authors, they're not all in tune to George R. Martin and what he's interested in. So usually I cover stuff that I think is relevant to Ice and Fire, that when you read it, you'll understand Ice and Fire a lot more. This is why I tell people like A Song for Leah is such an important story, and Sometimes Never Kill Man. Because when you read those stories, you understand Ice and Fire a lot better. And then I sort of did the Thousand Worlds just as this kind of like limited thing, because I thought a lot of the stories were relevant. And at that point, like, I don't know. Had I chosen just the ones that I thought were interesting, it would have just been kind of selective. But I just did the whole Thousand Worlds because it was this like limited kind of thing. There was like 27 stories or 28 stories or something. But wildcards, it's just hard because I don't think the stories are very useful. They're also a little difficult to understand unless you read the entire books around them. But reading the other books around them isn't very helpful. So it's just, I don't know. I think it's also like, I think they're a bit mid. Like, I don't think they're horrible stories. I just don't think they're that great. Well, I thought the Thousand Worlds stories were fucking fantastic. So it's a lot of little things. It's one, I never thought they were that useful for Ice and Fire. But two, it's difficult because it's a lot of non-George R. Martin material. And three, I didn't think their quality was that good. So it's just that. Yeah, I mean, wild cards. The thing is, I don't know. I mean, like I said, George has about 8 stories or so. He has like half a book, and about like some of it's interesting. Like the one, like it's very clear that he kind of took the atmosphere of one of the books and that he started it with the one with Pop and Jay. And with Pop and Jay, and that's very clear that it's like the feeling of the prologue of A Game of Thrones comes from the Pop and Jay prologue of a Wildcards book. But it's I don't know. It's just they're fine. They're fine to read, but I don't think people are that interested in them. I don't think there's that much to glean. You learn a lot more about George R. Martin because The Great and Powerful Turtle is very much George. Yeah, there we go. The Woolworth Building, 800 feet. Oh, Washington Monument, 555. That's a good one. It's pretty tall. Wildcards is straight ass. I mean, like I say, it's fine. It's fine. I just don't think that it's Trump Tower's 800 feet. If the fused stone is plastic, a solvent might be perilous. Oh. Did you see my comment on the Ed chapter about wearing a dagger in a council meeting? Oh, yeah. I guess he's bringing up because I recently did the Ned chapter with the small council where he talks to where he screams about Daenerys getting executed, and Ned wore a dagger. He wore the cat's paw dagger into that room. Huh. I guess he could just assassinate the king at any time. But Barristan Selmy's in there to protect the king. So how much danger is there? Yeah, I don't know. Are people in universe? Do people wear daggers into their council meetings? Such a weird count. I'll have to keep my eye out for this in the future, like how much people wear weapons into meetings. But yeah, that's interesting. But so I was thinking about about the stone. If it is plastic, you're right that maybe there's some sort of solvent that could make it melt faster. But then Euron would have to know like what that solvent is and be able to like rot through, get something. Maybe is there some way to See, people would do it today, right? Like mining today is still done with these big machines rather than solvents or acids. So there must be like there's no economical way to do it. I guess it's just, you just got to get a lot of ironborn in there, chipping away day and night, ching, 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 to get that tunnel done. Um, what's the fastest a tunnel has been dug? These are all like modern machines. I guess we got to figure out like ancient tunnels and like how long they take. But I mean, the high tower doesn't have to fall in the winds of winter. Maybe it can be one of those things that falls later. But I think it's definitely it's most important that like in the short term, I figure out what is happening in Oldtown for Sam. Like Sam is sitting, Sam, he's still doing his glass candle shit. Does he need to flee? Are there going to be Ironborn around? Are they just raiding the city? How much does he have to worry? That kind of thing. So, The answer to everything with Euron is magic. Oh, it already happened at the Winterfell Library. Oh, I mean, just burning libraries. Euron struck a chord and it was an A minor. Is Euron looking for the glass candle? One of the things, this is my problem with like Euron, is that it seems like he has a glass candle already, right? Like somebody is talking and messing with Euron, and Euron is doing things that keep playing into Euron's hand. Like Euron is the one that like everyone was like, who are we going to support as king? Like, is it going to be Theon, or is it going to be Asha, or is it going to be you? They're all like, hey, Euron king. They were totally on board with choosing Euron as the king, totally on board. And then he goes out into the ocean and he's like, I got this great idea, a king's moot. You're like, you fucker. You could have just taken the kingship for yourself, or just said Asha, or said Victarion. It didn't whatever Euron said, everyone would have gone along with. They were totally ready to do that. And he fucking says Kingsmoot, and it plays right into Euron's hand. So, it's one of those things where it seems like Euron himself was like sending him the message. But then if that's the case, what is Euron looking for in Oldtown? Or is he Eurothon Nightwalker from Karth, and did he somehow have a glass candle there? So, but then what does he need? What does he need then if he already has one glass candle? Maybe more than one glass candle is better. Maybe if he has two glass candles, he has more strength. I don't know. Come on. We only got a long shot, wide shot of Oldtown. Nothing, and there was nothing at the Citadel. Yeah, you're right. It was just like some books, some library books, and toilets. We saw toilets. The high tower is the phallus of a sleeping giant. Maybe. And then when it falls, like it's just everybody's gone limp. The Roderick the Reader's view of all this. Roderick the Reader's view was that Euron wanted everyone to attack him, that he had some sort of secret plan, right? That this was yeah. Oh, not to be pedantic, but you keep saying that the werewoods are depositories of knowledge. I think you mean repositories, probably. I mean, What a depository is the thing that goes up your... No, wait. A depository is a place where things are stored. Irish libraries became depositories for materials from around the world. So depository is fine. Repository is a place where receptacles can be stored, like natural resources or computer data. See, in these situations, I usually am like, oh, I probably used it wrong. But no, I actually used it correctly. A depository is a place where things are stored, and a repository is a place where receptacles in which things are stored. I mean, very subtle difference. It sounds like you could use both, but like it seems like with computers, you use the repository because there's a disk and the disk holds stuff. While with books, the book itself is already the book. So it's a repository, and that would not be a depository unless you're putting the books in buckets or something. So yeah, no, strangely, I was correct on this. I know I misuse words all the fucking time, but yeah, no, this time I used it correctly. Depository. Yes. Oh, but you're saying the werewoods are depositories. Okay. Maybe I'm gonna walk myself back here. Okay. Depository. See, now I'm trying to think if either depository or repository works with the werewoods. Because with the werewoods, you need to have the receptacles put in. The werewoods themselves are the receptacles. So it's not quite a deposit. It's not quite a repository. Right? Because like... I mean, if you thought of the werewoods, I guess if you're thinking in a computing sense, you can think of the data being stored in the werewoods. If you're thinking them specifically like hard drives, then yeah, they would be repositories. But could depository mean... Does depository need to be something physical? Like, can knowledge be deposited? A depository. But that's the thing is like banks are depositories. And we would say they're depositories even for like electronic currency. See, it's kind of hard in both situations. I guess repository might be more correct, but I'm not going to say depository is like you're depositing something. It's a deposit. Like, what's reposit mean by itself? Like a depository is you're depositing something, and by depositing knowledge, you can kind of understand that depositing knowledge. But what is reposit? Like, does reposit have a what's reposit mean by itself? To put back, to store, or deposit. Reposit means to deposit. I'm going to say they're both fine. They mean the same thing. Repository and depository like linguistically mean the same fucking thing. Okay, that's fine. That was a great that was a great to go down. Possible other timelines. Queen ends. Possible others timeline. Queen ends Lord's Right of the right a century ago. Others are forced to rely on wildlings. Wildlings unite under Mance. Craster's Keep is built for some reason. Craster killed. Plot in The Winds of Winter. Yeah, I think if you go back to my Secrets of Craster's Keep video, I kind of start from that, of course, like the wall itself was using the Black Gate as the Lord's Right of the First Night place to drop off your kids and have them taken by the others for their babysitting. And then once Alysanne bans Lord's Right, then there's the question of how are they getting kids. And I kind of say, well, okay, maybe Bloodraven goes up there and as Lord Commander, and he establishes Craster's Keep and all of that. However, there is like a window of time between Alysanne and Bloodraven. I mean, a good 200 years, more than two. I mean, a good 100 years. There's a good 100 years between the banning of the Lord's Right for the First Night and Bloodraven's. If you're assuming Bloodraven is establishing the Craster's Keep and all of that, so how did they get kids in the? Did they take them from the wildlings? Maybe, but that's a problem. The problem with the theory is what did they do for 100 years between Alysanne banning it and Bloodraven establishing Craster's Keep. If he established Craster's Keep, that's a big if, right? So I don't know. But yes, the theory here is that the others were using Craster, stealing from the wildlings, but once you start moving the wildlings south of the wall and you kill Craster's Keep, well, now the others have essentially been attacked. They have no source for babies anymore. They need to invade, or that needs to kind of be established, Anyway, with our Davos chapter, we hint on some of this, but it certainly gives them motivation for why now. Why now? Is that you're taking all their kids away. You're taking all their ability to procreate. He threw it in the sea because murking Balon was a waste of money. I mean, what to do with that egg in the sea? Who's your favorite blue Power Ranger? Mine's blue. I guess you like the original blue. He was the guy that was abused on the set. A lot of Dragon to Man's covered some wild cards. I'm sorry. First time I read Cat 6, I thought the George R. R. Martin was setting up a way for the Eyrie to be invaded. It's funny because there's so much detail on it, and we visit it again when we go with Elaine coming down the mountain. So it's not like it doesn't come back, but it's not really that important. And then we're probably never going to see the Erie again because it's winter and everybody left. So, but yeah, that there'd be some sort of interesting force or something interesting attack at some point. It's just one of these things, the George Gardner thing. He will just like write some stuff and hopes it's going to be useful. And it never is. It didn't, they're like Armageddon Rag. Armageddon Rag's okay. But do you think the Winds of Winter will go viral when it releases? Look, if the Winds of Winter, I don't think it's ever coming out. I put it at a very, very low chance. I've been quite honest and straightforward about that. But obviously, if it came out, it would be number one bestseller. People would be talking about it. It would go crazy. The world would go crazy. People love the books. People love the books, and a new one coming out would just be like epic. It would be epic. Oh, acetone is 1660 nail polish. 16. So acetone on plastic. Is this the idea? And it can just like, I'm looking at acetone kind of stuff, but how do you make acetone? I don't know if Euron's going to be producing acetone. I mean, he already collected all that blood. Reacting benzene with propylene to form cumene. I mean, homemade acetone. I don't know, man. It just seems like giving some Ironborn some pickaxes might be easier than than acetone, than making acetone. I'm trying to calcium acetate, because he needs a lot of it. If he's talking about like a huge tunnel underneath the high tower to cause it to collapse, like he's going to need ships filled with it. Mm-hmm. Into more suppository. Yeah, so what we really need is suppositories. Book depository. I'm so confused. Both can work. Riveting stream on grammar. This is what we get asked about. I mean, Jesus, people give me a lot of shit for. I mean, I knew I was getting into the shit when I did my analysis of George's blog, and I was like the I do thing, and I was like, I do. The emphasis should be on the I. That should be highlighted, and I went on for way too long, and people were like, oh my God, Preston, I just knew. He wants ancient or dragon knowledge, not conquest. So that's the other thing, is that so certainly when George originally wrote the prologue, and so by the way, and I'm going to do a video soon on the long prologue. I have a copy of the long prologue, and I was going to go through it and talk about it. But the long prologue was the original prologue. Well, the original prologue. The original prologue was the mega prologue for A Feast for Crows. But George wrote several versions of our our acolyte misfits, novice and acolyte misfits crew. Okay, from Oldtown. And so he wrote a long prologue, a short prologue, a rosy prologue, and then he wrote the prologue that we all know and love. But the long prologue is fascinating because there's a lot of information in there on geography of Oldtown that was put in the World of Ice and Fire. It's very clear that this copy was given to Elio and he put it in the World of Ice and Fire. But there's a lot of stuff on Oldtown that's in there, and then a lot of stuff on glass candles, because it's very that Jacques and Agar is very clearly looking for a glass candle. Pate is not stealing a key; he's stealing a glass candle. The original deal is not gold for iron; it was gold for glass, and so we kind of which fits and makes sense with the ending more. In the ending, we have, well, I guess it doesn't. I mean, in the ending, we get the Jacques and Agar is near the glass candle. We don't know what he's doing with the key, but he's near the glass candle. I suppose he would have no reason, if he got the glass candle from Pate, he would have no reason to hang out in Marwyn's room and deal with the glass candle there. So, but nonetheless, it's pretty clear that Jacques and Agar was interested in the glass candle. But some people think maybe Jacques and Agar is interested in a particular book, like Blood and Fire, like the big book in some other crazy book in the basement. So, and that the key leads down, opens a door down there or something. We have no idea what the key opens, and we have no idea if there's another thing that Jacques is looking for, or if, maybe when we hear about Blood and Fire, that's what Euron is going to go for. He's going for various books. So there's lots of stuff at the Citadel that you could possibly go for and see. But I suppose if he's sending, it seems like Euron already has a glass candle. But if he's sending off Victarion to get dragons, I suppose he'd want to learn about dragons. That just makes sense. So maybe Euron would be going for Blood and Fire, and Jockin is going for a glass candle. So I don't know. Yeah. Has Oldtown ever officially fallen? Oldtown has, but the High Tower has never been conquered. I think the Gardener Kings conquered Oldtown, but were never able to get up the High Tower. Hello, a far-right candidate has just won the presidential election in Poland. Thanks for the stream. Will sure help to keep my mind off it and chill. Oh, well, we can't win them all. Poland has always kind of been more right-wing, more Trump-supporting than a lot of places. So it's... I still see presidential election too close to call. But I guess we'll see. Maybe. But maybe, one guy's leading. But it's... Oh, great. An anti-EU Holocaust revisionist. Oh, fantastic. Good job, Poland. Oh, man. I mean, our president, I think, said today that Trump posted today that Biden has been replaced with a clone. That the real Biden died and he's been replaced with a clone. The president of the United States posted that. That's where we are. That's where we are in this world. But yeah, that's pretty sad. Yeah. Which is too bad because Poland is all, well, I'd have to do more research. Poland's very important for the Ukraine war as well. But let's see how it goes. Is Euron going to become a vessel for a spirit of Azor Ahai? Bloodstone Emperor, bring the long night with the moon by making the red comet hit the moon. I'm not so much into the kind of celestial aspects of Ice and Fire, nor like the and when I talk about like the magical elements, I try to limit them to kind of very specific sci-fi elements that we've seen already, like telepathy, control over animals through telepathy, sending your consciousness into something, things like that. So when we're talking about like Euron becoming a vessel for the spirit of Azor Ahai, like I don't believe really in any prophecies. Like you have to like I would step back to that and I'd be like, okay, well, what's the mechanism for having that happen? Like, where is the spirit of Azor Ahai stored, and how would he be transferred into Euron? Like because this would be like a very rational way that George R. R. Martin would deal with like fantasy and magic. Because like if you're dealing with like just an unlimited magic world, you don't have to worry about that stuff, right? I just summon a demon, and where does he come from? Oh, he just comes from wherever. Well, what do you mean? Like when you summon a demon, where does he come from? I mean, we do this all the time, like, right? Like, you're playing something like Baldur's Gate, and you cast a spell, and it's a demon summoning spell, and a demon appears. Well, what happened there? What was the actual mechanism? Was the demon stored in hell, and then was his like material body like transferred into like mana energy and shot up in a beam to your hand and then expanded again? Like, you have to think about that kind of stuff, right? Because George is the type of person to think about it. He just doesn't willy-nilly have like magic happen. So like if Euron were going to be a vessel, okay, it's human, consciousness pushing and people being stored in different places. Like that happens, Bran goes into Hodor all the time, right? So sure, people can become vessels, just like Hodor becomes a vessel for Bran. I'm on board with that. But if you're saying like Azor Ahai, Bloodstone Emperor or something, like where is their consciousness? Like where has it been? Has it been stored in a werewood? Has it been stored in a raven? Do we have any evidence that their consciousness has been stored in these kind of things? And like, does Euron like possess those artifacts? Have we seen those artifacts that might store their consciousness? And so none of that has been hinted at. So I would say that like, no, there's nothing like hinting at that, Now, what has been hinted at with Euron is that he's talked about people praying to him, which praying is kind of like a telepathic connection. You're trying to form a telepathic connection with God. And George has written stories equating prayer with telepathy. So you could kind of say, okay, he's trying to form a telepathic connection with Euron because he's commanded Euron to pray to him. But we don't really know what that means. Like, I theorize that maybe he's trying to form a new hive mind, like with like the warlocks did, and he does dabble with warlock stuff. So maybe he's trying to form a new, House of the Undying. But like what is the motivation? Like, what have we seen that could say that he has a repository of Azor Ahai, in his possession, or that he even follows the religion of Azor Ahai, of R'hllor, or that he wants to bring about the Long Night, or that he has control of celestial objects like the Red Comet, like, all of these kind of things like come from, they're kind of, out from nowhere, like we've got a lot of like crazy fantastical stuff that can happen in the story, but there has to be some sort of like small element of it like being hinted at before you can kind of go, okay. I mean, you could take like, what would me to prevent me from removing Euron here and being like, okay, let's put in Arya. Like, is Arya going to be a vessel for Azor Ahai and the Bloodstone Emperor to bring about the long night? Like, why not? Like, why is Euron more appropriate than Arya in that sentence? So, you know, it's hard. It's hard. I don't know if George really, honestly, has any idea what Euron is doing. I think he probably mystery boxed a lot of it, where he just creates a mystery and hopes to figure out something later, because he definitely puts in some language about flying that makes us think about Bloodraven and Bran. But then he's got weird prayer stuff. He's got some prophecy stuff. He's got visions. He's got the warlock wine, and you're trying to piece it all together. And, my guess was, okay, a new House of the Undying or something that might fit, but it's, oh, they cyclically hibernate for 100 years, like Old Man said. That's a good reminder. Okay, what does she say about the others? Thousands of years ago, the winter fell. There came a man. The others came for the first time. I need to. I want to find the quote on that. Yeah, I think I must have also said that they had a hibernation cycle or something to explain away like why we didn't have to worry about them for a while after Alisane's banning. But does she say? Oh man, I would love to get the quote here. Of like, if Old Man, and is that? Does she only talk about the others in A Game of Thrones? The others. Here we go. The others. Oh, well, I don't think I'm going to find it. Somebody else can. If there's a quote about them hibernating every 100 years, that'd be great. I think maybe that was a Preston idea that somehow might have snuck into. Oh my God, sorry for putting you on tilt about the Depository. I really didn't care. You're awesome. Can't wait to read Davos. Yeah, Davos is coming along. I'm feeling a little better about it. Like it's with the editors right now. So, whenever I put things together, I always feel horrible about it. I'm just like, oh my God, this is so bad. And then the editors kind of work with it for a while and like force me to like rethink certain parts. They're like, this needs to be worked. And then, so I think, and then getting the parts that don't make sense, So I think it's Davos is coming together. Davos is coming together. It'll still be a while. Still be a while. And I'm also starting to put together Mel, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with Sam. The right now my idea with Sam, and you guys can recommend things because I'm still trying to figure it all out, is Sam begins with a fool in Volantis. Like he's all tattooed just like Patchface. And it's kind of like 1001 Arabian Nights where he has to tell a new story every day or else he gets executed. And he's been doing this for years. And he's kind of running out of ideas, but he's very happy all of a sudden because Sam has been giving him ideas. And so he's telling it. The chapter opens with him like telling, say, the story of the election, and he's like, and then the raven came out of the kettle, and all the people are like, oh, what a great story. And then they all start talking about the politics of Volantis, and I have this idea that like, okay, there's been a revolt in the western part of the city, and they haven't crossed the bridge yet to the eastern part of the city, and they think that the Widow of the Waterfront has been causing this trouble, and that news from Slaver's Bay kind of set this off. The idea that Marine and Skahaz won, but Dany has also disappeared and her dragons have disappeared. And this has caused people to, be unsure of things. And there's this idea that, okay, which side will the R'hllor Temple be on? Because the R'hllor Temple is on the east side of Volantis. And so they would be pro-slavery on the one hand because they buy slaves like everybody else, but they pro-Daenerys. So the idea is like they're currently helping fight the slave revolt, but if Daenerys returned, then all of a sudden the prophecy is being fulfilled of her returning. And because they now think she's missing and dead, much like Stannis, Anyway, somehow I haven't figured it out. It's all messy because also it's like the fool has to like go out and like find this other council of fools where they share story ideas so that they all don't get executed. So they like share each other's stories. And so maybe we can hear about what's going on with Lady Nim's mom and Lord Sunglass and some of the characters that fled from Lice after that situation. And then we'd get to Sam and Oldtown and the raids from the Ironborn. And I want to have Darkstar and Hota run into Sam briefly, kind of like how Arya runs into him. And then somehow return to him. But then I'm trying to figure out like why, like how Marwyn fits into this. Like, why is Sam there? Like, what did Marwyn do? Like, was he trying to find? Marwyn was searching for something at the libraries inside the old city of Volantis, and he's trying to figure out why, or something. I have all these little pieces of events that I want to have happen in this chapter, but I can't figure out exactly the story. But that's where I am right now, like trying to figure out. It'll come soon. I'm sure I'll do the chapter call in a week or two for that. But Winds of Winter will come out. You can't tell me to give up hope. You just keep hoping. You keep hoping. I'm fine with that. I don't want to be too negative. Finally finished Ghost and Indians. Really enjoyed it. Do you know you do great political storytelling? Suleiman holding the Bosphorus, Ned Stark super sleuth, Dornish master plan. Maybe your next book. Well, thank you, Josh. I really appreciate that you finished the Dreams of Ghost and Indians. The part of it is there's this alternate universe where Suleiman has to hold the Bosphorus Straits for a reason. But yeah, it took a long time. But yeah, yeah, I'd love to talk more about it, but I don't want to spoil it for people that haven't finished the Dreams of Ghosts and Indians. But I'd love to get into, sometime I'll talk about it, but it may be for maybe a while before I start revealing all of the little secrets on why the history of why certain parts get written and stuff like that and what I was meaning. But thank you. I do really appreciate it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Why are people so sure that the later seasons give an ending when seasons 1, 2, and 5 and 6 change so much from the published books? We know Azor Ahai and Mass Murder Danny equals D&D. So there's a few reasons why we kind of think about, and it's mainly because in those when you look at the later seasons of Game of Thrones, a lot of times the characters are just sitting around and doing nothing until there is a big plot point that happens all at once. And sometimes these plot points have nothing to do with the plot. And so you're like, well, why was this there? Why was it done? So take the example of the burning of Shireen. The burning of Shireen had what? No impact? Like, what impact did the burning of Shireen have on the story? Right? Because, like, Selyse kills herself. Doesn't matter. Selyse would have died anyway. Stannis does it. Gets killed. Doesn't affect him at all. Davos gets angry at Mel and wants Mel expelled, but then Mel does all of her stuff anyway. So it doesn't matter that she was expelled. So, like, why was the burning of Shireen even there? Well, the burning of Shireen was there because it was a plot point that George said happened. Okay. Another one is R plus L equals J. All this time is spent like on R plus L equals J. What did R plus L equals J do for the story? It got Varys killed. That's it. But Varys could have died a million other ways that were more interesting. Like all of this buildup of like Bran using the werewood to view different stuff, him talking to Sam about it, Sam discovering the information, like, having all these flashbacks. And what was it for? Nothing. It was just revealing a plot point for the sake of revealing a plot point. And so there's a lot of those elements in those later seasons, because you also remember all the time killing they have. All the time killing of like Tyrion sitting around a table telling jokes with Missandei and Grey Worm, or, everyone at the wall eating food and staring at each other, not saying anything. And so you get this idea that there's plot points that are just shoved in there that for the sake of it. D&D, when Weiss wrote his own book, he like went to school for creative writing. I mean, they think about stories, like they can plot stuff. So it'd be really weird for them to just throw in random events that have no point, and so I think that's a bit of it. And there's some confirmation on some of it. Obviously, like they told them specifically they said specifically that George told them about the burning of Shireen, and a lot of people are like, of course, R plus O equals J. And I think that the Bran King thing as well was something that George told the actor over the phone once. So not that everything is going to be that way. Or that George can't change his mind, because of course George changes his mind. He changes his mind about a lot of stuff. But then it's just weird, because also then we started finding that some of the plot points from previous drafts, like Asha trying to rescue Theon from the Dreadfort, was a plot point that George had that somehow ended up in the show. So we kind of feel like there's a lot of elements that a lot of the stuff is just plot points. And a lot of times these plot points don't lead to another point in the story. So you feel like the only reason they were shoved in there is because they were told that this is a plot point. And so we're going to shove it in there, even if it doesn't lead to anything. So I think that's a big thing on like why people are thinking that the endings is the same, is that D&D, for all their faults, they were still hitting the same plot points, the same major plot points. Yeah, they made changes. There's no Jane Westerling and there's a Talisa instead. But everything ended up the same, right? There's no John Connington getting grayscale and things like that. But there's this feeling that, but the plot, the things ended up in the same place anyway, that kind of aspect. So I think that's why. There's certain things that I think are just impossible, like Brienne beheading Stannis. I think that's just impossible, and I don't think that'll happen. But I think that might have been one of George's plans. Like, it seems like in the text that this is set up, but that Brienne would kill Stannis. But it's logistically impossible at this point in the story. So I think that's it. It's just that there's so many plot points that are shoved in there with no purpose other than to spoil us. So that's my guess on it. Why is the water at the night gate salty? So it is really weird, right? So what he's talking about is, as Bran passes through the Black Gate, a drop of water plops on top of Bran, and it's as salty as a tear. And so let me bring up the exact quote. It says, "The door's upper lip brushed softly against the top of Bran's head, and a drop of water fell on him and ran slowly down his nose. It was strangely warm and salty as a tear." Now, logically speaking, I would say Bran is a guy. I mean, they haven't bathed in fucking how many days? Yeah, if a drop of water ran down your forehead and into your mouth, like, it should be, yeah, it'd be salty because it's taking the salt from your head and everything. But it doesn't seem like that's what's being written here, right? It seems like it's that Bran is puzzled by it, and that it was legitimately salt water, like prior to dropping on him. Here's the door's upper lip brushed softly against Bran's head, and the drop of water fell on him and ran slowly down his nose. It was strangely warm and salty as a tear. Now, the strangely, is the strangely modifying only warm, or is it modifying the salty? I don't know. So, what are my full ideas on this? My full ideas on the wall is that the wall makes no sense, and I've brought this up in the fanfic, that it should not be there should not be a big tall wall. It would desiccate over time. Sublimate. I mean, it would sublimate over time. If you built a big wall like that, there's no way it's going to stand up like that for thousands of years. It's a silly concept. So my idea is that there's some sort of system underneath the whole wall, like a refrigeration unit of some sort, that's creating the wall. And that it is being fed by geothermal energy or something, and it's pumping in water from the ocean, and it's creating the wall, like the ice. Now, the thing is I think we're talking about when you actually freeze salt water, it doesn't freeze with salt in it. When you freeze salt water, like the top level like freezes, and then the underneath, like, it's saltier and saltier and saltier. And so even if you froze salt water, the salt would go down to some area, or get caught in some pocket or something, and the water from the frozen salt water would actually be fresh again. So or maybe it hit a little pocket or something. But George doesn't necessarily know the science behind everything. So is it actually made of tears? Why would there be salt there? He's clearly writing it like the water was weirdly salty, and that's a mystery we need to solve, even though the most logical thing is that the water became salty because it went down his head and it picked up his body salt. But that's the best. I mean, so my explanations are either it's actually salty because the water went off his head and it picked up his sweat, or it's pumping in water from the ocean, and George doesn't know that you can't freeze salt water like that, and that it's like an author error in that in the nature of frozen salt water. Those are my two explanations. One is the most logical. It went off. His water went off his head and it's salty. But the other is that, like, yeah, there's this massive refrigeration system and it's pumping in water from the ocean, and that's why it's salty. So it should be saltier than a tear then. How much of the Dreams of Ghosts and Indians is autobiographical? If half of it is true, you're a very bold man. Great read, by the way. Can't wait for you to go over it on stream. I would say, how much is autobiographical? I mean, both Key and Joshua are, of course, me. I would say that, considering one entire section is in dreams or whatever, it's more than half. It's more than 50% autobiographical. Like, a lot of it is really stuff that happened to me, people I met, things I did. People, like, almost everything, almost every person and every character in it, with the exception of maybe the walking men, are people I knew or combinations of people I knew and experiences that happened to me. Nearly all of it. I would say that, like, I would say the Dreams of Ghosts and Indians is probably close to, even though it's fantasy and obviously we don't live in, if you remove the fantastical elements, it's like the events that occurred, it's like 75% autobiographical would be my guess. It's a lot. It's more than in many ways, like, the book is a way to write an autobiography without being so, like, I don't know, either like arrogant or fearful that someone's going to read this and be like, you did what? One day if my kids read it, are they going to be like, wait, you did what? And I'm like, well, but yeah, a lot of it is I'd say like 75% is autobiographical. Yeah. Just remove all the fantasy stuff. But yes, both Key and Joshua are me. I mean, they're not and most of the events are things that happen to me, or things that are very close that happen to me. Old man. One is that the children, that they steal children every 100 years. I have to find that again, because now I've forgotten it. Does he say 100 years? I'm gonna search 100. 100 names, 100 feet, 100 years. No, 100 feet deep. 100 kingdoms, 100 horsemen, 100 times. 200, 100 times. 100 men. 100 times, 100 times. Or is it under a century? It's just strange that I wouldn't have. No, I don't know. I'll have to find the quote. Maybe too crazy. Could Krakens pull down the tower? Would they be strong enough? I don't know if they'd be strong enough. I mean, that'd be crazy, but like, would they be strong enough to? That I don't think they would. That's the. Like, I'm trying to think of like how much force they would have. It just, I don't think you could get it. I don't think you could get it to happen. By the way, Carmine hasn't called in, but I wanted to bring up. Carmine had. By the way, Carmine had his thumbnail stolen by Critical Drinker. Hopefully he's gonna call in. He doesn't think it's a big deal. But I was like, fuck, the guy stole your fucking thumbnail, man. What a lazy ass. Like, I mean, we live in a time where you can freaking
facts.
We live at a time where you can just like any lazy ass can like go to an AI maker for thumbnails. Like, we live at this time, and the motherfucker goes in and steals Carmine's thumbnail that he used years ago for their latest like fucking live stream. He just took his fucking thumbnail. And I mean, it's just so easy. There's fucking AI thumbnail creators and he just fucking takes Carmine's fucking thumbnail. Unbelievable. Unbelievably lazy, the fucking grifters, man. But that was Carmine's thumbnail. Hello.
I really hate that you're making me defend this asshole Critical Drinker, but remember, I myself took inspiration from someone else's thumbnail.
Well, this is the thing. Carmine's like, I've stolen thumbnails in my life, so I can't defend somebody stealing a thumbnail from me.
I mean, we all have. It's not right. Like, YouTubers like to pretend it like it's rocket. Some YouTubers' thumbnails are like specifically crafted, but most 99% of the time we just Google shit and put whatever the fuck is on there.
Yeah. But that's the thing is it takes 2 seconds. It takes 2 fucking seconds to grab some pictures, put on some text, screen capture,
So
thumbnail.
what I did was I found like something that looked like that, and I just added like a couple of things to it and changed up enough to where it was like different enough. I really don't care if
At least you did
if he used it.
something. At least you did something. I'm just saying we live in a time where you can honestly like put into, I mean, what like what can I do? Can I do it? Is it ChatGPT do it, or is it just is it Wayfarer?
I've never heard of Wayfarer, but ChatGPT can do it. Gemini can do it. I've been using Gemini lately.
Okay. Show me a picture of George R.R. Martin crossing out dates. I couldn't find an actual photo of George R. Martin. Can you create it? Create a picture. What does it do here? Oh, I've got to log into chat. Fine, fuck it. Fine. See, this is how this is probably what happened. He's like, oh, this is too hard. I'm just gonna steal Carmine's fucking thumbnail. Jeez.
It's really not a big deal.
It's just lazy. It's just lazy just to like usually with the internet and stealing and borrowing and whatever, there's some minimal amount of like changing and alteration. But zero. That was your thumbnail. Boom. Come on. I've never done that. I've never taken something just completely thumbnail by itself and taken it as my own.
I love you to death because I always try to craft the thumbnail to make it like decent. I love you to death, but your thumbnails suck, man.
I know. That's because I don't steal people's thumbnails. I create my own really fast and they suck. Okay? Jeez.
I can't talk shit. Lately I've been very lazy with like anytime George comes up in the news and I do a George video, I always like have like a quote and like white and yellow with like a George picture. Very lazy.
Yeah. Well. Regarding Oldtown defenses, they always surrender and never fight. Probably bad at fighting. We'll reach a deal with Euron, open gates, double cross. Yeah, I mean, there might be something like that. But the thing is the Tyrells run the city watch. So it's not just about, and then Garland has a huge army too. So unless the Tyrells are fully 100% like joining Euron, it's like, why would they all double cross onto that side? Also, we kind of get the feeling that Euron is going to join with Cersei. There's a lot of evidence of this, the show being one plot point, but two, the appendices show a lot of connections between Westerlands and Ironborn and marriages. And of course, Euron's vision of a woman in flame. Euron's going to be joined by some woman. It seems like it would be Cersei, if not Dany. So it's the Tyrells aren't going to join with Dany again. I mean, with Cersei again. And Cersei's not going to join with the Tyrells again. I think that's those bridges are burned. So, I don't see the Tyrells like doing the double cross or something, unless it's some individual person that's gone rogue. If the Vale has all this barren womb imagery, could Robin actually be a bastard of Jon Arryn? Makes the seed is strong ring a bit different. Oh, I've never heard it that way. This is this idea that, because usually people say the other thing, that Jon Arryn's seed was bad and that it's little fingers. But the idea that the other way, that John Aaron had an affair and he produced a bastard and swapped it in. The problem is that Lysa was in King's Landing and was visibly pregnant and walking around with a bump. I understand that like in shows like Glee, somehow people fake pregnancies and all of a sudden get a baby swap. But I don't know. It seems like a lot. I mean, it seems like Lysa was actually pregnant with a child, and that child is Sweet Robin, and she obviously did give birth because we literally see her lactating. So we know that she did legitimately give birth, So like that happened. She gave birth to something, and it was enough that, now keep in mind, like giving birth isn't enough to just like activate your mammary glands. You have to have a suck on it for a bit to get it everything activated and going. I mean, and then you start out with that like colostrum and stuff like that, colostrum and stuff like that begins and stuff like that. So there's no like faking it here, There's no like, unless she like stillborn and then somebody else was sucking on her boob, or something weird like that. But no, it's like she clearly gave birth to a baby. And because we've seen her breastfeeding, we've seen her lactating. So like that happened. So nah, it's gotta be, I mean, Sweet Robin's definitely hers. There's just too much. Like she's in King's Landing, pregnant. We see her breastfeeding. Like it happened. She had a kid, So what else has been going on, Carmine?
Amber and I recorded today.
Really? What did you guys record on?
The George meltdown thing, plus Wheel of Time deserving to be canceled.
Yeah.
Basically the stuff that you and I have covered, but for her channel.
Okay. Well, what did she? Not to spoil it, but how did she feel about about all of this bad news in a week?
It's she made a very good point. Like, she made a good point, but also she was saying something along the lines of like, imagine if that happened with you guys, but also it's kind of been happening for like 15 years. So,
right. I mean, so the reason a lot of people, like, there's definitely some people that are like, how can people talk about this subject for so long? How could we have a 45-minute discussion over this topic? And the thing is
I'm going to cut right there. It's very easy. You just hyperfixate on every fucking word.
But it's more than that. This conversation, because we keep having, the fandom keeps having this conversation over and over again. And I think it's because the topic is very fascinating because it touches on a lot of things. It touches on things everyone can relate to. Work ethic and procrastination. Like those things, wanting to get stuff done and not being able to get stuff done, and like the realm of like how extreme that can be. Like everyone relates to that. That's a huge thing. And then it relates to like death and thinking about our life and legacy and like mortality, and all of us struggling with that kind of thing as well. Like what we need to get in and do before we die, and that grim kind of idea.
She also actually Amber also corrected me on one thing. I thought Robert Jordan, before he passed, I thought that he and his wife were both selecting, like interviewing people to finish it out. Apparently it wasn't Robert, it was his wife.
It was just his wife, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So she corrected me on that. I thought, look, my position has always been, if George wants to retire, go for it. But while you still have all your faculties, while you're still alive, while you can still, make the decision to have somebody take over and you can like look over their shoulder. If he doesn't want to do that, fine. But he, you know what I realized, by the way, real quick, if you permit me to go on this, because I think I might shock you. So I know you said, Twitter, yeah. But you know what I've noticed about Ice and Fire fans on Twitter? a majority of them have never read the books. They're under the age of 24, and they don't know anything about George R. R. Martin. Like, for example, I've noticed a couple of these idiots don't realize that George actually has assistants and has written Ice and Fire stuff with other people before. They don't know that Elio exists.
Right.
So I'm like, what the fuck? And that's fascinating to me because people, of course, I'm still getting attacked on there. People are like, go back to making your red pill videos. And I realize you guys don't even watch any Ice and Fire YouTubers. So I went through all the people who like were bitching about me. They're not subscribed to any YouTuber. And not only that, they only watch the show.
Yeah.
So these people have no idea who George is. They have no idea who Nimble Dick is. They have no idea about anything other than wanting to roleplay as Daemon Targaryen's chauffeur or Rhaenyra's butler. You know, like it's just like stupid shit like that. But then we go on YouTube and apparently we're too hard on George. Or I'm sorry, we're too soft on George, but we're also too hard on J.K. Rowling.
I'm pretty hard on J.K. Rowling, but I get people saying that I'm too soft on George, and I get people that say I'm too hard on George. Like I get it from both ends.
The number one thing I see about you is that you think you know the books better than George. I think at this point you probably do, because when was the last time George wrote anything? Also, hold on. Doesn't George admit that he also forgets stuff about his own characters? That he has to have Elio come in? Yeah. So
yeah. I mean, we all do. We all forget stuff. Like, Jesus Christ, I was doing the Davos chapter and like, I put Sir Robert, and one of the editors is like, Rebecca Glover is not a knight. And I was like, oh fuck, you're right. Like, why would Rebecca Glover be a knight? Jesus fucking Christ. Like, what am I doing? But at the same time, like, I think even the same thing, like during the Asha chapter, a lot of submissions had like, a lot of people had put Christopher Botley, Sir Christopher, like a lot, like several had named him Sir Christopher. It's like Tris Botley's not a knight, you know, like he's Ironborn, like, you know, a lot of things like that where you're just like, oh right, of course Rebecca Glover's not a knight, duh, like of course, but you brain fart, yeah. But no, I think the reason this topic is, I think it's a fascinating topic to people because it touches on so many life issues, and it's interesting because people's views are all over the map. Like there are people that are like, fuck it, like this is ridiculous.
Not necessarily. I actually learned a lot about the fandom on Twitter and mostly social media. A lot of the fandom, if you could call them fans, they're just really young and fucking stupid. And on like the real Ice and Fire fans mostly hang out on like Discord servers, Reddit, and comment sections. But especially on YouTube, they're very bitter. Holy shit, people are bitter. Like in your comments and mine as well, I've read several. No one is willing to give George any leeway. They're all just very rude, very rude, very rude.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, it's like I said, I don't know. I don't fault the person for not for the thing is no one understands another person's life, like what they're going through, what they're handling. So it's just like you don't fucking know. You don't fucking know. And it's and so no, I'll never be that harsh. But so George has his reasons for everything he's done, or not done. It's fine. It's fine. Cooking with Preston stream when Carmine is the big cook. He's the guy that likes cooking, and he actually considered having a cooking channel for a while.
I did have one briefly. It was a pain in the ass. Again,
and then
shout out to and Babish and all these fucking people, because it is a pain, dude. You would need like another person there to help you.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see how you make rice, because rice is, Asians hate the way I make rice. Every Asian I've ever met hates how I make rice, because Brazilians make it vastly different than how like Asian people.
All right, how this is how I make rice. Okay. I take the rice cooker bucket. I put in the rice. I wash the rice about 12 times.
Okay.
and
Okay.
then I put in the right amount of water, about a finger above the level of rice in the rice
Only
cooker.
water, nothing else.
What's that?
Only
Yeah, just
water,
water.
nothing
Yeah,
else.
yeah, yeah.
What's your rice cooker? Is it what's that one called? Zurishiji something?
It's something we bought in Taiwan. It's some Taiwanese thing.
Because I know in Japan they love the
Yeah,
Zurishishi,
yeah,
whatever the
yeah.
fuck.
It's like yeah, high tech thing.
Can I tell you how I make the rice? And this is what is in my. Can I tell you how? All
Huh.
right. So for me, it's 1-to-1 ratio, right? Rice and water. Okay. And I wash that bitch until the water is clear, right? And then
Yeah.
before I transfer the rice to the pot, the saucepan, I put a little bit of olive oil in there, and I put the
hmm
rice in there, a little bit of olive oil on top, some salt, mix everything well. Sometimes I'll put some garlic in there, like chopped up garlic.
Hmm.
Occasionally, some finely chopped up onions, and then water. Squeeze a little bit of lemon in there. Let it go for like 30 minutes. Should be fine.
But what are you having it with?
I love so I'm glad that you asked. I just had some rice today, and I had some grilled cod with it.
Okay,
Pan-seared
that's
cod.
fine. Like, but like the thing is, how you're
Usually
preparing rice
fish.
depends on what dish you're having, and like what grain you're going to use, and all that kind of stuff.
Basmati. I don't use anything but basmati rice.
Oh, that's probably why everybody hates you. Oh my
Why?
god, what are you doing? You use basmati for everything?
Yeah, I love basmati. I don't use anything else. God, I hate that little like bullshit sushi rice, the little one. Ugh, the little grain
Short
one.
grain.
Fucking hate that. Yeah, I
Short
hate
grain.
short
Well,
grain.
see, this is why
Ugh.
people hate you. This is why. Okay,
You love
you're
short grain,
fucking you're
though.
fucking making basmati rice with everything. Like, geez, like
Bro,
basmati, it's got a
basmati.
time and a place. Your basmati rice is for your Indian food.
Fucking talking about no. By the way, when I say basmati, I don't. You're probably thinking that like that super long grain of rice. No, 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 no. I'll show you the one I buy from
Jasmine.
Walmart too.
You buy jasmine rice.
No, it's basmati rice. I'll show
Whatever.
you.
Whatever. Whatever. Anyway, this is a joke because Glitus did a very fun cooking stream recently where he announced that George is going to come visit him in Australia. So
Is that true? Is that true?
that's what he said.
I don't
He said
know.
he said that. I mean, I think very seriously. Like, I suspect that um, that George is getting up there in years, and the thing is that kind of stuff happens like slowly. I'm sure he can handle visiting and having dinner or whatever with Glitus and Swifty like for an evening, but like I mean, who knows? I'm not saying he's going to be super loopy, but you know, he's in his 70s. Everybody in their 70s gets loopy, so you know.
I
So
sent
we'll
you
see.
a picture of the
He'll,
rice I
he'll
used.
I don't know. Glidus is too nice to report back if George is loopy when he meets him. So we'll see. That's the kind of thing
Would you?
I'm gonna be like Glidus. Was he loopy? And Glidus is not gonna tell me. Like,
Would
it's
you
too
say
nice.
something? If you had dinner with George privately, would you say something?
Uh I'd tell you. I don't know if I'd announce it, like the results on stream.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
um we don't know what would happen if you built a wall that big. Glaciers hung around a long time. Could phase states we aren't aware of. Increased pressure on salt water could result in what we see. Uh, I mean, the idea here is that it rains and snows at the wall. This is, I touch on this a little bit in the prologue of the fanfic, but like if you had a wall that was ice, it would sublimate, and then rain and other stuff would add to it, and it would start widening, and it would start widening, and then it would get flat like a glacier over time. Um, there's no way you would have this perfectly flat wall naturally from people just putting bricks of ice up. That's just ridiculous. So like it would be distorted and weird after a year, let alone 8,000. It's just not going to look that way. So, I mean, granted, it's a fantasy story, and maybe George wasn't thinking about it, but it's I just can't see it just naturally being like that, or George thinking about the science of it that detailed.
Hey, before you move on to the next, can we put something to bed, please?
What's
Because, oh my God, there's this wannabe grifter junior who says he has insider information that George has finished Wins back in 2016, and he withdrew it because he's fearing backlash because of the show.
No way.
Like, really? No, that's not even, no. So one of my patrons even contacted me privately and like sent me a video from this one guy, and not to get on that guy's case too much, but the YouTuber he sent me apparently is like a wife beater and a Holocaust denier, and I'm sure the patron didn't know that at the time.
So he could be president of Poland.
I'm sure the patron didn't know that, but like, to be, and you know what? I mean, good news for David Lightbringer. That means he's not the craziest, most awful person doing Ice and Fire content, but still up there, at least.
Come on, man. He's nowhere close.
Fine, we'll give him the number 3 spot. But still, George did not finish Wins back in 2016. That is crazy. However,
no. There's no way that George has. There's no way that George has already finished one, let alone 2 books. No, he hasn't.
Yeah.
It's just he like, you can see his fucking breakdowns and the anguish and the pain that he's in. If he had it sitting here under his belt, he'd be a lot more coy. But he's saying that he wrote it and wants to rewrite it or something.
The popular theory is that George finished back in 2016 and he wanted to release it, but the reception to the ending of the show is making him rewrite it. The other popular theory is that he's done with both Wins and Dream and he's waiting to release them back to back. I don't know about that. I don't know about any of those.
Why would you wait to release them back to back?
I don't know. For the meme, I don't know.
When you had that much money, like, I mean, here's the thing is, like, you're talking like hundreds of millions of books that would be sold. Would it be? Yeah, 100 million, it'd just be like so much money pouring in. He would be the cover of Time magazine. They'd be like the biggest book of the year. Like, it would just be over the top attention.
Biggest
if you
book
finished
of the
that
decade.
book and it was released.
Bro, biggest book of the decade. Come on. Like,
yeah, absolutely. You're not holding that back. No. That's ridiculous. What, it's like, I'm actually married to a supermodel, but I'm holding off having sex with her. What? Why? Because I want to have a really good threesome, and so I need another supermodel. Like, what? Like, what? No.
What's that voice?
I don't know. I think I used comic book guy from Simpsons there.
Okay.
Actually, this is a very rare issue of Mary Worth where she convinces her friend to commit suicide. George always says that Danny is 8 or 9 months younger than John. It's because 9 or 10 months they could be brother and sister, not twins. George did say that. I mean, so in an off the cuff like question once, someone said, "What's the age difference between John and Danny?" And he said, 8 or 9 months or thereabouts. He said something like that. And everyone was like, "Oh, let's do my math and everything, and the math doesn't work out because Robert's Rebellion's timeline is ridiculous and dumb, but like nothing works out. But whether proving it or disproving anything, it's just I don't. He just put that in a I don't know. He was just saying it. I'm not trying to. I think it's just mainly because what like Danny is born near the. I'm trying to think because I'm just like in his head. If in a quick thought, like Danny would be born at the very, very end of the war because they're taking Dragonstone, the idea, but John at the Tower of Joy a little before that. I'm surprised he even said 8 or 9 months when it could have been like 5. But these like I said, these timelines don't make any fucking sense at all. Robert's Rebellion timelines. There's an old draft of, I think, Storm, where John says he's older than Robb. And then George cut that line. Because obviously if John is older than Robb, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Because Robb is born kind of near the end of the war. So John being born further in, but then what's the whole bed of blood thing? Why is she sitting there still in her bed of blood if John is older? None of it makes sense. But yeah, could they be brother and sister, like not twin brother and sister? Like this is the R plus L equals D. Like he has John, and then they have Danny too. Then he gets her pregnant immediately and has Danny too. I never understood the people that are like, I understand that there are kids out there that are 9 months apart, the Irish twins kind of thing, but man, that's just like mean. Like, a woman needs to heal. Like, Jesus Christ. Like stop it. Like, oh my God. Oh my God. It's so like, what are you doing? You asshole. Ugh, whatever. Throne of Glass. I have. How do you explain the Throne of Glass is nowhere near the same caliber as A Song of Ice and Fire? I roll my eyes when people call it Game of Thrones without all the problematic stuff. It's so funny to say like Game of Thrones without all the problematic stuff. Like Game of Thrones is inseparable from the problematic stuff. Like the whole point of Game of Thrones is that yes, it's problematic. That's why it's so shocking. You what would you have if it didn't have the problematic stuff? Like, like what is Game of Thrones without it? You've got to be pushing the boundaries constantly in Game of Thrones. That's the whole point. Children dying, brothers and sisters fucking, little kids fucking. Like this is the whole thing. Game of Thrones is problematic. Yes. Throne of Glass is by author Sarah J. Maas. It's about an 18-year-old assassin in the kingdom of Adalrian. After a year of suffering of her crimes in a slave camp, she accepts the offer to compete with other assassins to serve as the king's champion. Let me see if I can look a little bit about the writing here.
I can never get over stuff like Throne of Glass. It just seems like fanfic, glorified like fanfic of a better story. I don't know. It's just
The title and stuff.
It's just like the overall story. It just doesn't. I like Game of Thrones. I like Ice and Fire for its grittiness. Like it feels grounded, you know. And, Throne of Glass feels like fanfic from a Dungeons and
Well,
Dragons
okay.
thing.
So, I mean, it's just so I'll bring up here right now. Okay, so Throne of Glass. Here is how it begins, and you can just kind of like tell, right? After a year of slavery in the salt mines of Endovir, Selena Sardothian was accustomed to being escorted everywhere in shackles and at sword point. Most of the thousands of slaves at Endovir received similar treatment, though an extra half dozen guards always walked Selena to and from the mines. That was expected by Delaran's most notorious assassin. What she did not usually expect, however, was a hooded man in black at her side, as there was now. I mean, it's okay. It's written. It's finely written, but it's not punchy, right? Like, how are you beginning this? Like, if I were to make it George R. Martin would have started with the last sentence and brought it up front. He would have said, you know, Selena did not expect a hooded man at her side. And that would have begun it. And then you'd have been like, wait, what? Who's this hooded man? Why did she not expect that? And then he would have explained that. But George R. Martin would have never begun with a sentence as long and ponderous as, after a year of slavery in the salt mines of Endovir, Kalena Seller was accustomed to being escorted everywhere in shackles and at sword point. Wait, not punchy enough, not gripping enough. That's the whole thing. Like, you know, George is always trying to punch you in the gut at all times and make you like, and which is why his writing is so good. It's just so gripping. But yeah, I would never say, I mean, obviously like Game of Thrones without the problematic stuff sounds like a kind of blurb. But I can just like, you can just read one paragraph and realize it's not George. Like, you could just, one paragraph is all it takes and be like, look, this is very well written. It's fine. It's not George. Does it pull you in? Does it pull you in and are you like, are you ready? No.
Just by you reading that, I can tell. This is one of my gripes with the Wheel of Time show. Everyone's got perfect anime hair, like at all times, forever. Just by you reading that one paragraph, like it just feels like she had perfect hair, perfect anime hair forever. I don't know. It's just, there's no grit.
But it's just, I mean, you can compare that to, a Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones. We should start back. Like that, like, what do you mean? Like, that's how Game of Thrones begins. We should start back. Garrett urged as the woods began to grow dark around him. Like, like there's something more to that. The wildlings are dead. Like, everything about it is just like, keep reading, keep reading. I'm going to pound you. With every sentence. You can see he gripped her arm and led her through the shining building in which most of Endeavor's officials and overseas were housed. So they walked somewhere. They strode down corridors, up flights of stairs, and around until she hadn't the slightest chance of finding her way around again. Like, there's nothing so far that's really like, pulling you in, So this is just like the brutal criticism of it all, How are you pulling it in? But yeah, it's kind of the thing you're always asking is like, have you bored the reader? Have you bored the reader? It's why George is so good. and why it takes so fucking long for what he does. Rain and Snow and ESP. This has been. I mean, sorry, we've probably like. Oh, this is The Wall again. Yeah, the Rain, Snow, ESP. I think there's something keeping that shape. Maybe it's, you could say maybe it's magic. Maybe it's like a refrigeration unit of some sort that keeps it, just shooting up the freezing cold at a certain level. I don't know. Claes kills George R. R. Martin and changes his face to Swifty. If only Glytus could Buffalo Bill George R. R. Martin. That's the what's really sad is I will grant that I think the Kingkiller Chronicles are fucking beautifully written. And it's just really fucking sad as well that guy is in the exact same situation as George R. R. Martin and cannot finish a fucking book.
I would love for someone to clear up the situation with that guy, because I think he tried to do something with like a Kickstarter to get the third book out or something, and it didn't work out. Do you know about this?
Yeah. I heard all about it. Yeah.
So what's explaining to me? What's going on there? Like, did he defraud people, or what's going on there?
A little bit. But it's funny because his writing is very similar to George R. R. Martin. Like, hold on, I'm gonna show you this. It was night again. The Waystone Inn lay in silence, and it was a silence of 3 parts. Like, he's actually a little more poetic than George, but like but it's like, boom. It's like everything's very blunt. But the deal is it'd been years since he's been trying to put out his third book, the Stone Door. Is that what it's supposed to be called? The third book, something like that. Door of Stone, something like that. He had made this deal with some donations, or was it a Kickstarter? It was something where he was asking for donations for something, and he was like, if you guys give enough money, I'll release 1 chapter. And everyone like overwhelmingly gave all of this money. The Doors of Stone. And he didn't produce the chapter. So It never came out. And he tried to explain like, oh, I built it up so much, and then I wanted to get it read by somebody, and then things weren't working out, and then I just felt embarrassed about the whole thing. And honestly, everybody's like, we don't care, just give us the chapter. We don't care, just give us the chapter. We don't care if it's read. We don't care if it's a rough draft. We don't care. Just give us the chapter. Never give him shit. Never give him shit. Nothing.
What's he been doing this entire time? Just been chilling?
I guess.
Like, he doesn't make any appearances or anything. George at least has the gall to like come out to fucking interviews and whatnot. And
do other stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, the big difference is Patrick Rothfuss, he only has 1 book to go versus having 2 books to go. He's also only 51. But it's been also 14 years since his last book. So,
has he just been sitting on the success of those 2 books? That's it? Did they sell that much that he wrote
like some like smaller novellas, but it was like back in 2014 or something. Yeah. So yeah, it's Yeah, he says it's mental health, that he's like very seriously, utterly depressed. Um, so that's what's going on with them, is that it's a mental health situation. Oof, careful! I got first egg off the rack. First two kids 10 months apart. Oh, Ross, man. I guess you give her a month to heal, at least a month to heal. But I think there is a huge difference. Not to backtrack, I think there's a huge difference between 10 months apart and 9 months apart. 9 months apart is just mean. 10 months, whew, that's still man, that's still fast. That's still very fast. It's like first out there. There's a Hallis Mullen cameo. Oh, Hooded Man. Hooded Man. Maybe that was Rebecca Glover. Rebecca Glover right there.
Sir Rebecca Glover.
Sir Rebecca Glover right there. Oh, man. Oh. I mean, you'd think that like the guy would, before he died, would have one more book, right? You think he'd be able to get it out. Is there a better chance for King Killer? I mean, there's better chance for King Killer Chronicles than
no shot. Wait, at least with Winds of Dream of Spring. Oh yeah, Dream of Spring.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I was about to say
no.
Winds
At least,
of Winter. At least
here's the thing: is I will say the bad news about the Doors of Stone is I think his editor has been like, no, I haven't seen anything. I don't know what the fuck he's been doing. Like the editors have like called him out and been like, yeah, the guy hasn't given us anything. And meanwhile, with George, we have seen some stuff. Granted, it's leftover dance material, but and George reports being 3/4 done. So he reports that there's pages, Well, I don't think Patrick Rothfuss has made claims about how far along he is. So, yeah, it's just the Patrick Rothfuss. Here's the whole thing. Patrick Rothfuss, he had a charity fundraiser, and each year Rothfuss does a fundraiser that goes to charity. And he said that he was going to read the prologue of the third book, and it was something like $700,000 came in, which is just a huge sum of money, and then it's just nothing, didn't produce it. Fucking $700,000.
At least George isn't doing that bullshit.
Yeah. But man, when's the next Sweet Robin chapter coming out? It'll be at least a month before Davos is out. I'll tell you that. But Davos is coming along pretty well. It's and I'm starting to put together Mel, and I'm gonna have the Samwell chapter call out soon, when I just figure out what the plot will be there. Just trying to figure it out, because it's a lot of moving parts with Sam, because there's just you're trying to deal with like both Volantis and Oldtown at the same time. But I think it'll turn out. Thoughts on Fire Walk with Me. Wow. I will tell you that my thoughts on Fire Walk with Me, I think I've outgrown them. Originally, I watched the original um, uh, Twin Peaks, and you kind of get this feeling of, and keep in mind, I was very young when I was, watching Twin Peaks, and you feel bad for Coop. You feel bad for Cooper because he's clearly in love with Laura Palmer. And it's just like this shame that Laura Palmer is dead, you know? And so when you watch Fire Walk with Me, the recap stuff of everything that happens in Twin Peaks isn't very interesting. But the new stuff, the stuff with Bob and her father and everything is very interesting and scary. I think it's a very scary, interesting movie. But then when the ending happens, when both Cooper and Laura end up in the, like, her soul is taken out and his soul is taken out and both put in the lodge together, it was almost like somewhat comforting that in the end Cooper and Laura get to be together. Of course, this was like a naive first read of this, and then people are like, no man, like that's not cool at all. Like, Cooper is like this creepy dude. Like, yes, he's the protagonist, but he's also like a creepy dude, and Laura is a high school student. Like, come on, man. And you're like, oh right, yeah, that all tracks. Sorry. It's not cool that they're both just in the lodge together. Like, or like this idea that, whatever the case, he's going to be protecting her or something. And then, apparently, I haven't watched the Twin Peaks sequel, but apparently, they go in a completely different direction. It wasn't about that at all. So my interpretation at the time of watching Fire Walk with Me was kind of off. And I'm sure a lot of other people have this like feeling sorry for Cooper kind of thing. But in the end, you're like, man, it was really fucking weird. Cooper's a really weird guy. So I don't know. I don't know. Dame in the Air. I need to get back to Dame in the Air. No, I completely like stopped on Dame in the Air. And just had too many fucking other things. But Jesus, quarterly reminder on Dame in the Air. God damn it. Gotta go back to Dame in the Air. Maybe start over again on that. Because now that there's an entire, like, I'd used like footage and stuff from first season, but now there's a whole other season that I can work on with I think it was Damon the Hero was the title of it, not Damon the Air. But yeah, I'm sorry about that. That's just a dropped ball. Fucking, this is the reminder. Now I'm like Patrick Rothfuss. I'm like, yeah, I'm working on this. I'm like George, Damon the Hero. People will start harassing me about what you're missing, 6.10, that I never did. Rothfuss has 3 or 4 completed drafts, but still has made his pub go bankrupt. He has a pub? Oh, his publisher. I was like, he has a pub? He has a pub? Oh, I was like, his publisher. I was like, he runs a bar? Simon and Schuster, right? But yeah, it's just one of those sad things where, man, if we could get it. Now, there's apparently some pretty famous authors that couldn't finish their work, and I don't mean they died first, but I'm trying to remember who's the Olivia Butler, right? She had a series that she wasn't able to finish, I think. I think there's something which is kind of sad about her. Octavia Butler, I mean. Um, yeah, she never finished the Earthseed series, which is apparently pretty sad that everybody. And there's a question of like, had she finished that? Our Parable series, she might have been on the Mount Rushmore. Oh, this is a great question. All right, Carmine, how would you trim A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons into one book?
Is that even possible?
Like, does it still have to be? Because like The Dance with Dragons is already like the upper limit of what could be done. This is a great fucking. Okay, let me think about it.
I'm assuming you would remove like all of the what's that Tyrion chapter you hate from
7.
Dance?
Tyrion 7.
I'm assuming you would remove a good chunk of that, but I'm also assuming you would add that lost chapter about Tyrion and the what's the stone
Shrouded
Stone
Lord?
Shrouded Lord. You would
Nah,
probably
I don't
add
know
that
about
back in there.
Let's see here. Okay. Should we go through this is like the okay, how to do this. All right. This is going to take a little bit. All right, so it's got to be this is like its own video. I could do a video on this. All right, let's start here. Okay. How am I gonna, this is, all right. So we're gonna trim it down. Okay, first of all, which we go with, first of all, you go with the A Feast for Crows prologue. And we completely cut Vermeer Sixskins. Okay? You don't need Vermeer. Vermeer Sixskins doesn't provide anything. So that is, you just cut that. Then we go with the Prophet. Because we need that. But you cut the Kraken's Daughter and you cut the Iron Captain. So, and then we cut Captain of the Guards. We don't need Captain of the Guards. We don't need Hota there because we can. I feel like you could. Yeah, you don't need Captain of the Guards because that's just an introduction to the Sand Snakes. They don't need it. Okay, so we need Cersei 1. And we cut Brienne down to like 1 chapter. We like all of her stuff that happens like in chapters like 1 to 3. We can like cut down to like 1 chapter. Like, you know, she doesn't need to meet, you know, Illifer the Penniless and stuff like that. We just condense it. Then, Samuel 1. Okay, we'll give Samuel 1, and we need Arya 1, and we don't need Cersei 2. We don't need Jaime 1. We don't need Brienne 2. We don't need Sansa 1. We need Introduction to the Vale. We don't need Kraken's Daughter. We don't need Cersei 3. We need Soiled Knight because that sets up the Queenmaker. Don't need Brienne. Samuel 2. That's them on the ship. We don't need Samuel 2. I think we can jump to Samwell in Bravos. Jamie 2 we don't need. Cersei 4 we definitely need. And then Iron Captain we don't. Drowned Man we of course fucking need. You're not gonna fucking drop that. Then Brienne 4, that's like Tarly. Let's keep that. Queenmaker, definitely need Queenmaker. I think we could probably combine Arya 1 and 2 into one. Okay. So then Elaine, I guess. Don't need Cersei 5. Cersei 5, nothing happens, but we don't need Brienne 5. We can condense Brienne 5. We can hurt Brent 5. She doesn't. Let's get her to like let's do like 5 to 7 or whatever with Brienne to get all together, combine, like trim that down. So then we get Sam 3. That's him in Bravos. Yeah, we definitely need Sam 3. Jamie 3. I don't think we need any of the early Jamie story. I don't think we need Jamie like standing vigil. I don't think we need him like doing his super sleuthing beneath like for Rugen's jail cell. I don't think we need any of that. I think we definitely need the Reaver. And then we need probably another Cersei to deal with the sparrows or something. Maybe we'll do 6. Let's do Cat of the Canals. And then we got we'll get some late Jamie. Like Jamie going to like it's maybe a little bit of Jamie in the Riverlands. And then another Cersei. Like we got to give Cersei the Cersei late story, like Cersei 8, Cersei 9. We'll give Cersei some late story stuff. That's all the exciting stuff. And then we get Princess in the Tower, and we get Elaine 2. We got to have Brienne 8. That's Lady Stoneheart, and then. We'll do Cersei 10 and we'll do Jamie 7. And then we got to have Sam 5. We'll skip Sam 4. We don't need Maester Aemon dying. That's stupid. So there we go. That's half that book cut down. Tyrion 1 and 2 can be combined. Don't need it. Don't need much more than that. Then we got Dany. Dany can be cut down. Dany 1 to 3, we can just put them together. And then Bran can be cut. Bran 1 to 2 can be put together because nothing happens in either one. Jon 2 can be completely cut. Jon, because it's already in Sam. So we can just jump to 1 and 4. Jon 1 and 4. Because actually that was originally Jon 1 and 4 was one chapter. And then Davos. You completely, utterly cut Davos. No Davos story. I don't think any Davos is necessary. At all. I mean, maybe if you want to give Davos just Davos 4, just go and give Davos just Davos 4. by itself. If you want to, like, rather than crash landing on the sisters, you just crash lands in White Harbor. Like, that's it. Like,
What? No story about Ned Stark that one time. No, randomly getting
no,
that story. No.
no, none of it's necessary. Um, this is a fucking good video idea. I could probably do a whole video on the idea on like how we could do this, but no Mel chapter necessary. You could totally like trim John, because nothing happens in these John chapters. Oh my gosh. Brand 3 you need, obviously. But, oh fuck, Reek. You could probably cut one of the Reeks. Like, maybe you could cut Reek 3, combine it with Reek 2 or something. Like, but that's a good amount. But man, what's weird is I'm not cutting much Aria. I think all the Aria stuff is kind of necessary each step. But this isn't hard. King's Prize, you definitely need King's Prize. But man, see, we're getting there. I think we would definitely like fit in under the in 70 chapters or something. Yeah. I mean, I think this is a video in itself. I think I could this would probably be a pretty fun video. But yeah, you don't, it's certainly possible. I don't, it was just a lot of bloated stuff. The question is, I wonder if you could like literally remove chapters and still make it make sense. Like, I know I'm talking about like condensing stuff, but like if you were to just begin at Brienne 2 or something, would the story still make sense, without Brienne 1? Would the story make sense without Cersei 2 and 3? Like, you go straight from the death of Tywin to her small council. Anyway, good. I think you get the point, but I think it would definitely work. Like how to actually that's never been done. You know how everybody has their fucking boiled leather combined reading? They don't have the abbreviated reading of A Feast for Crows and Dance with Dragons, where you just read it and it's like the story's fine because these chapters were not necessary. Oh, I think I might do that. I thank you, Jamie Lannister. I think I'm going to do a proper video on this soon.
Thank you, Jamie. Most of your chapters are dog
Most
shit,
of your chapters are cut, but we didn't need Jamie like standing. I mean, you're talking like, if we're talking about being economical, like, keep in mind, Feast for Crows is a remarkably short book. So you essentially just have to cut out enough material to fit in what you have left. Yeah. Preston turning into the George R. Martin butcher. I would. But you need to condense the book, but you need bad pussy. Jamie 3 is absurdly long. Let me see about this. I never thought about that, about Jamie 3 being so long. Oh my God, you're right. 8,203 words? oh my Lord. That's atrocious. Jamie 3. After that, aware that Cersei is trying to rid herself of him, Jamie argues that his place is beside his king, not off laying siege to River Run. Then he leaves, and then he goes to Castle Hayford to talk, and he fights with Ilan Payne, and then runs into Ron at Connington. Wow. That's not even... Man, that is hugely long. Some of these insanely long chapters. So it turns out, I was complaining about Cat 6 at Game of Thrones. People talk about my meltdown on it because it's so long. It's the longest chapter in a Game of Thrones. It is 7,343 words. So sometimes these super long chapters, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did they end up so long? What was so important that needed that much time? What's your non-magical explanation on how the Black Gate at Castle Black works? I mean, I think it's just some sort of computer of some sort. That's it. I just think it's a computer gate of some sort that is very old. That it is really weird. I mean, I admit it's really weird that the mouth kind of stretches out and looks like a face, and why did they design it that way? But I mean, it's having a voice activated gate is not exactly with a password. It's not exactly futuristic or magical. It's just a computer gate. Now, granted, that seems really weird in this fantasy world, but this is also a world that has glass candles. So if they're able to develop glass candles and that's some sort of futuristic technology, then the gate would be too. I mean, it's 8,000 years old, if not older. It might predate the wall. We're not sure. If A Song of Ice and Fire event was retold as a George R. R. Martin fairy tale, like Mira told to Bran about the Harrenhal tourney, what stories would work best? Oh, that's interesting. The ones we've already seen. And I mean, that's kind of what I'm facing with the Fool retelling Sam Tarley's tales as a story. But that actually makes me, I'm glad you brought that up, because that actually makes me think to go back to the Night Fort with the crew and see how they tell stories and translate that kind of experience over. But I was thinking about what are the fun stories that would work best, because I was thinking about okay, the most interesting things that happen to, say, Sam, you'd think would be him killing the other, but that actually doesn't make a very good story. There's no ups and downs. It's just he's walking and he's having a really crappy time and he's being carried by Small Paul, and then he stabs another. There's no story to it, right? It's just, those are just events. So I think the election of Jon Snow might work if someone told that story, because that actually has a proper resolution. where Jon gets elected and stuff like that. Feels like a story. I think you could probably tell like Cersei's whole A Feast for Crows adventure, where she's arrested at the end, as some sort of story. Because it feels like a fitting conclusion, right? That she set up this trap to get Marjorie, and then she falls into the same trap that she set. She falls into the things she set for herself. So there's like there's irony of the story in there. I'm trying to think like anybody else. Their adventure is kind of. You could probably take Jon and Egret's arc, like him meeting her, and then him eventually killing her or having her die, as a story. There has to be something, some clear beginning and ending that kind of fit with the whole thing. Like Cersei planning to put Marjorie in jail, ends up in jail herself. Jon meeting the girl, losing the girl. Maybe Theon's conquest of Winterfell could probably be a tale that you could tell as a whole fairy tale, and having a conclusion at the end of what happens to him. Where there's a beginning and an end. I'm trying to think of any others that really work. I don't know. Maybe yeah, those. And then Dany's story with Khal Drogo, and the pyre might work. With you start with the eggs, you end with the eggs. That kind of stuff might work too. Cut chapters where people are traveling. Yeah, that's the thing, is you could definitely. All right, I'm gonna head home. I'm gonna head to bed soon. What if Euron cannot conquer Oldtown? The city has not been taken, and Euron lost to Stannis at sea. Aura farming and piracy aside, he seems incompetent. It's true. I'm not saying that, like, logically speaking, Euron should be able to conquer Oldtown, but it does seem that, like, if this idea of the Ironborn continuing to be in the story and Euron being a threat and him joining with Cersei, he needs to offer something to Cersei, and he has to seem like he has some sort of power. Like, if he fails in conquering Oldtown and the Tyrells just push him off, then what's his use and his point anymore in the story? Yeah. And so I think he kind of has to have some sort of success for people to take him seriously enough that Cersei would marry him or align with him. And so I think that's part of it. I think, yeah, logically speaking, do I think he could possibly take, like, Oldtown with a bunch of little long ships? They could raid it a bunch, but the other armies are going to show up and deal with it, and can he surround and conquer a unrealistically tall fortified tower? Probably not. But can they really mine that quickly? Probably not. But I think in story they can do these sorts of things. But you're right. It's I don't know what they'd do if he couldn't conquer all. Like, he doesn't conquer Oldtown, and then he goes back to the Iron Islands with his tail between his legs, or he sits on the arbor. It's just kind of a weird thing to set up all of this. I guess it was done with Stannis, but, like, set up this situation where it looks like he's going to conquer Oldtown and then not do it. If they did a Marvel style animated of Game of Thrones, which episodes would you want to see? For Game of Thrones the series, those early seasons, like seasons 1 to 3, they did really well. I'd want to see them all. But are you talking about like what I'd want to see translated in from like the book of Game of Thrones into like a Marvel? I mean, I'd want to see it all, but geez, I mean, if you're gonna animate it, you might as well do everything. That's the thing is if you're gonna finally get an animation thing, I'd just be like every chapter gets an episode. Just do it that way. Um, huh. The Black Gate allows brothers who took the oath in front of the werewood. The North remembers. Brothers who took the oath in front of the sept are fucked out of luck. The thing is, we just don't know. I mean, the problem is that the only person that opens the gate is Sam, who took the oath in front of a werewood. So we don't know if it's the words or the fact that maybe, they maybe the werewood scanned his eye and the werewood, the gate is actually a werewood. Like, is the gate actually a werewood and it's opening up because the children of the forest and the fucking werewood net are connected into it? But they'd still be able to like know who's in the watch. They watch enough stuff to know. Huh. I mean, I don't know if we have any proof. I mean, we don't know how Garrett got through the wall, so it might be that Garrett um, used the Black Gate and took the oath in front of a sept. We just don't know. We just don't know. Yeah. No, he meant like what if. Oh, with Marvel, what ifs. Switch things around. Um, I mean, I guess you'd start with like, what if Ned actually took the trip to the wall with Arya, like was actually put in a the transport like Varys wanted and was taken over land to the north. Like there would have been that. Would they have broken him out, and would he felt obligated to actually join the Watch because he said he was going to join the Watch? And would he meet John on the wall? And what, like, that would be a fascinating thing, like following Ned, like what Ned's choices would be. Like, I said I would join the Watch and I'm going to keep my word. Or would they be like, fuck no, man, what idiots, break free. You haven't joined the Watch yet. You haven't taken your oath. That would be interesting to see like what Ned would do if he wasn't beheaded, if he was actually put forward. The other one is, what if like Viserys actually took the eggs and went off with them? Like Jorah didn't stop him, and that he actually got his sellsword company and invaded. Like that would be a fascinating one. And what if Lysa actually executed Tyrion? Or no, I mean, let's say Bronn lost and Tyrion gets executed. Like how that would have affected everything, with Tyrion no longer in the picture. Because obviously the Green Fork works out differently. He doesn't become a hand, that kind of stuff. Who ends up being a hand too? That'd be some interesting what ifs in there. Yeah, Ned makes it to the wall. Tyrion dies because Bronn loses the trial by combat.
See, that's a conversation we could have, because I don't think Ned would ever make it to the wall. I think Cersei would probably try to have him killed along the way.
But Cersei was for him going to the wall.
Yeah, but come on.
All right, there's our all right, there's a video idea, Carmine. We will go through. I will make a what if season, and we will go through the what if season and talk about each of these. Talk about each of these episodes. What do you think?
I'm done.
What is it? 8-10 episode season of What If?
I don't know. I didn't watch it.
I didn't get through last season. Howard the Duck has a kid with Darcy.
Yeah, I heard it got really dumb towards the end.
I think eight episodes. Okay, I'll come up with 8 episodes, and we'll do a podcast on this. What if Nymeria had killed Joffrey? It's a pretty good one. You know. Nymeria did kill Joffrey. Joffrey's been a clone the whole time. All right. I was about to go to bed. The Sacrifice and Fire of What Ifs is with time traveling Bran. No, but time traveling Bran What Ifs are going to be a little different in that you're talking about like Hodor not having his head fried and him being the greatest knight and stuff like that. I've got to think about those things when we get to Bran 2. But he's talking
about like in What If the Marvel stuff. It's the Watcher.
Bran is the Watcher. But this is time traveling Bran. Mm-hmm. What if? It's like yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. But the thing is, like in Bran 2, Bran is going to see some of these alternate timelines, you know, because he needs to see Hodor. He needs to see Walder as he once was. Yeah. Man, oh man.
That'll be a fun chapter. You have to play around with that.
Oh yeah. No. It's going to be an awesome chapter. Bran 2 is going to be a fucking crazy chapter.
An alternate timeline where Hodor
it's going to be Hold
like
the Door as well, but it's going to be fucking crazy.
Of course,
yeah.
An alternate timeline where Hodor is somehow Lord of Winterfell.
Yeah. What? Do you hear? By the way, Carmen, did you hear the rumor that Stephen Miller's wife divorced him and is going off with Elon Musk?
That's fucking hilarious. That Stephen Miller's wife is hitching a ride with a fucking immigrant from South Africa. What?
Yeah. It's just weird because she's leaving the White House to work for Elon Musk when everybody else hates Elon Musk, and she is, yeah. Steve Miller appeared on Fox News, and they even asked him about his wife. Katie is leaving a spokesperson and is going to work for Musk at Tesla. Some people think they're banging. Couldn't have happened to a worse person, you know? Like,
and many more things happen to him, hopefully.
So much happening in this world. Like black eyes. Who gave Elon Musk the black eye?
Possibly Macron's wife. She's on a roll.
Yeah, so that was Elon's joke, yeah. But yeah. But definitely was not his kid.
Wait. Did you see Elon, the clip of Elon trying to stand still next to Trump during that same interview? Where they asked him about the black eye. Did you never saw that?
Is he just he's just hopping around? I saw a bit of that, but is he just hopping around?
It's just basically he can't control his body. It's shaking around.
Yeah. Well, you know, he's on like 20 different drugs, right?
My theory is that it's a bunch of raccoons inside his body just controlling him, and they're having a hard time. But yeah, why not? Yeah.
All right, man. I will thank you for everybody for being here, and we'll have some fun stuff, fun recording this week. When's is Trey back? Trey's back soon?
I have no idea. I never know what's going on with Trey.
God damn it. Gotta do Berserk with the boys. All right, guys. Thanks for being with me, and we will see you next time. Have a good one.